So thank you for joining us. My name is Phillip Stinis. I'm the manager of the Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator, and I have my colleagues who are we are going to be answering some of your burning questions for your startup. Let's see, we have Travis Lindsay and Victor Macias. I'll hand it over to them to do some introductions, but just a little bit. But before we get started, if you are here for in one of the classes, like for example, in JJ's class, you can please use the form that I put into the chat to indicate your class and your campus-wide ID. And for those of you who are joining us outside of Cal State Fullerton, welcome. This is actually our first time doing a Q&A, and we're very, very excited about doing this. This is a little bit of a sample of, in a way, like what you would kind of see in one of our coaching environments. Usually when people come into the Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator, you're paired up with a mentor and you work with them one-on-one. So you actually get the whole hour. Here, this is a group environment, and it's going to be a so-called a sample slice, if you will. So why don't I go ahead and kick it off by doing some introductions. I'll start with myself. So as I mentioned, my name is Phillip Stinis. I'm the manager of the Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator. We've been in operation for over 10 years, and we've helped out over 100 startups in that process. It's been just a wonderful journey to help people with their ideas and help them get started. My background is in aerospace engineering, and I decided after about a decade of that, I decided to start up my own business and go to Cal State Fullerton, get my MBA, and I graduated and then launched a couple other businesses from that point. So I've not only taught things about entrepreneurship, but also gone through the process. With that, why don't I hand it over to Travis?
All right, thank you, Philip. Yeah, so my name is Travis Lindsay. I am a co-founder of an investment fund called Titan Angels. Previously, I worked at Cal State Fullerton. There I was an administrator and also taught entrepreneurship for a couple of years, business planning, leadership, and a capstone course. So that's me. And now, Victor.
Hi, my name is Victor Macias. I am an entrepreneur. I have launched a few companies in the CPG, consumer packaged goods space, food space. My last startup was a low-carb keto cookie, which we grew to over 7 figures pretty quickly. Landed a deal on Shark Tank. My current startup is Santana Snacks, and it is an organic line of snack foods inspired by Mexican recipes. And I'm excited to be here. I can talk about digital marketing, e-commerce, CPG, startup. Yeah, happy to see where I can help.
Wonderful. And JJ, did you want to also make an introduction?
Hey everybody, I'm John Jackson. You can call me JJ. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at CSUF and founder of Titan Angels, a seed capital company. Long ago, I was a Silicon Valley guy, and I did a tour on Wall Street. Thank you.
All right, so this is just going to be kind of a Q&A. So if you have a question about your startup or a question about starting up a business, we're here. All questions are welcomed. So if you could either raise your hand or write it into the chat, and we'll try to go in order as best as possible.
So Philip, while people are thinking about a question, can I start it off by asking a question?
Absolutely.
So one of the main questions that we always get asked, and this is something I would like to hear from you guys on, is raising money. You know, every startup founder thinks that, oh, I have this great idea. all I need is $150,000 or $50,000 or $5 million to launch the business. What do you think of that? What is your response whenever somebody comes to you and the first thing out of their mouth is, I need to raise X number of dollars?
Is that a question to me or a question to the audience?
That's a question to you. It's a question to Victor, to JJ, anybody else who wants to unmute themselves and answer it or add on to the question. It's an open question.
I can jump in. So I think that's there's a couple of ways to look at that question. I think there's a lot of assumptions in that question. The first is the assumption that you need a lot of capital to start a business. I think something that we found is there's a lot of business ideas that can be started a lot cheaper than one might think, right? One thing that we talk about is a lean startup process. There are ways to generate revenue early through creating an MVP, through doing pre-orders, through maybe even doing some crowdfunding. Something that I've noticed is investors will rarely invest in just ideas, right? They want to see traction. They want to see whether it be early customers, whether it be signups, but they want some traction to show that there's product market fit. So I think step one is ask yourself, do you really need to raise money for your business idea? And two, if you um, do you have enough traction to get an investor interested in what it is that you're building? Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I would, this is JJ. I would say that the earlier you ask for money, the less leverage you have. So there's early stage startups still haven't proven that the idea works. They don't have traction. And therefore, if they get an interested investor, you might end up having to give up on the equity side considerable percentage of the company. Rather, I would wait and I would bootstrap your way, build up credibility, build up traction, and then begin your search for money. Because it's amazing what you can do with for free and for little to actually prove to yourself first that the idea is viable.
Very cool.
We had a couple
Okay,
trickle in.
we have some questions coming in now. So I'm gonna take Rebecca's question first, and then Lexi will be next, and Helena will be third. We can keep the queue going. Rebecca asked, hello, how do we start a business based on an app service if we do not have any experience in creating an app? And so, so along the same lines of what we were talking about, believe it or not, a lot of these app-based businesses have started after doing some manual labor. For example, Groupon was actually sending out emails of coupons before they had an app. And I would highly recommend in that same lean startup process to go about until you actually need an app to cover the service. Now, if you do need an app, you can go through iterations of the app. You can actually have a no-code app. You can go through some different iterations until you actually have enough traction and you want to actually build something. But I would challenge you to be creative and see how you can do it without an app or something very simple. And then if you do need something more complex, then maybe partnering with a co-founder or someone else who develops apps, but apps do cost quite a bit of money. So that's my answer to Rebecca's question. If Travis or Victor, you have anything to add to that, please feel free to do so.
I think you nailed it. I think that the part that jumped out to me is the desire for maybe a CTO, right, or a partner with technical experience if you want to get partners. If you are not tech savvy, not that you have to be, but if you are not, it is one of the quickest ways to burn money because you could end up overspending. It's happened to me with projects that I've gotten excited about. There are like Philip again said, iterations. It could be you could work potentially with somebody on Upwork to create a mock-up of an app, how the app would work. And that could be enough to start testing and see if you have traction and then see what it takes to get to the next level. The advent now of AI has made coding and even getting some of this stuff a lot easier and a lot quicker. So that would just be my thing is it can get expensive if not thought through properly.
Yeah, that last point is spot on by Victor. If you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend, you can get an app built, and it'll get built well. And if you did your homework and you know exactly what your customers are looking for, and you build the app to give them exactly what they're looking for, then great, it'll work. But that usually doesn't happen. And this kind of my next point is going to coincide with Helena's first question, along with Rebecca's question. If you don't have the expertise in the kind of business that you're trying to launch, then you need to get that expertise. So if me as an investor is looking at somebody who is trying to raise money and they want to build an app in a particular industry, and during my due diligence, I find out, hey, they don't actually have the expertise in either app building on the tech side or on the industry side of what they're building the app for, then that's a major red flag. And they're going to have some pretty good answers to that. So build up that expertise in yourself, or start working now to find partners who have that kind of expertise. And that's another point that I think is worth knowing for you guys, is that most startups that I know of that have done well, they usually come with a team. It's not the solo entrepreneur who's doing everything by him or herself. It's usually at least a couple of people who are spearheading the effort. So the good news is that if you're a student or you're younger, you have time. Even if you're middle-aged, I mean, you still have time to build up either the expertise or the network, so that you can create a team that is really primed to make that startup a success. So Rebecca, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
All right.
Welcome. I see we have Lexi. Lexi, your hand is raised. Would you like to take yourself off mute and ask your question?
Hello, everybody. My name is Lexi. I'm a business entrepreneurship major. So I know that when pitching a startup to investors, one of the main things that they want to know is the numbers, what is going to be the turnaround time and their profits. So my question is, what factors are taken into account when trying to calculate future profit?
Travis, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. So when I've looked at companies and JJ has looked at companies to invest in, we're just trying to find out as much information as we possibly can. And maybe I should take a step back. So with Titan Angels, we invest in very early stage companies. Many of them, especially earlier on, and we started this fund about a decade ago at this point, they weren't in revenue yet. And so when a company isn't in revenue yet, the best you could do is try to figure it out. Just do your homework, see how big the market is, how new or incisive the concept is, whether or not they have the team to build it. We draw on our knowledge of how much it's actually going to cost to get to the point where they can start actually making money. And so there's a lot of inferences that are made. And at the end of the day, we're usually wrong. But the whole point is to be wrong in the right direction. So if we're thinking that, okay, with $500,000 in investment, they're going to be able to make this into a business that can build up to making $10 million in revenue within the next 3 to 5 years. And then if it turns out that they're making $20+ million in that amount of time, great. That's all the better. So what has been happening over the last few years with investors is that they're having more and more of a bias towards companies that are actually in revenue, so that they could see, the actual numbers. And this goes back to a point that was made earlier about raising money, is that investors, again, are looking at those companies that are already doing business. They have some proof that there's a product market fit, and the numbers that they have, they can use to basically look forward into the future and see, hey, if they get an investment of a couple $1 million or whatever the case may be, they'll be able to grow this business, scale it to a point where it could have a really good return. So having those actual real numbers is really important at this point. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
I think you got it.
Lexi,
Okay.
did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. So it's more so my understanding to it's better to it's easier to get an investment when you kind of already started and you have numbers and you kind of have proof that there's a market and basically, right? Like that's what you're saying.
Generally, yes. So there are, I'm sure, some investors out there that will invest in somebody who has a really good idea. Those investments, those kinds of investments usually happen with people who have a background of success in some way or another. Ideally, they have subject matter expertise and they've built and sold off a couple of businesses in their history. So the investor already knows them. But if you don't know any investors right now, and this is advice that goes for everybody, and it's not just investors, it's also your potential partners, your potential customers. Just go out and network and start building up that network so that you get to know the investors in your space, other people that you might want to potentially partner with in the future, start a business with, because that's going to make a big difference.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question in the chat from Helena. Helena has 2 questions. I saw Helena has another question later too, but let's answer these 2. First one is, how important is experience in the field or sector you are trying to create a business in, when bringing business ideas to potential investors? Second question, how do you go about looking for investors in specific industries that some business professionals might deem risky or taboo, such as cannabis industry? The first part, my response would be, it is important to have experience in that sector. And the best way to get experience is to get a job. You can actually work for someone that you admire and someone that, an industry that you really like, and, kind of learn the ins and outs. And let's just take an example for a hypothetical example. Let's say you want to get into the food business and you have no idea what it's like to be in the food business. You probably have no idea about suppliers. You probably have no idea about, ordering a certain type of ordering or refrigeration process or anything that has to go with it. You might even learn while going through it that a lot of the people that you hire are teenagers and they end up going back to school or quitting or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of things you'll learn if you were to be a manager first, if you were to actually work on the business side of things. So that's kind of my take on question 1. Travis, Victor, would you like to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think that's great. I think it's work to learn, not to earn, right? It's super valuable to get that experience. Other ways that you can get experience are you can potentially hire experience. This depends on funding, right? So one is we talked about potentially getting a partner with experience. Let's talk about food, for example. When we started that company, we didn't have any experience in the food industry. If we knew what it took, maybe we would have thought twice about starting a business there. But by the time we looked for investors, what's unique about us is we already had like $1 million in sales, So we had traction. Had we gone just with the idea, I don't think we would have gotten the funding that we were looking for. But now in this other food startup, I have hired a consultant in the R&D space. So that's something where you can potentially collaborate, offer equity, or just say, hey, here's how I'm filling said gap. So just another way to think about getting that expertise that you might need.
Yeah, I think that that's spot on, both what Victor and Philip are saying. And you could get started at a smaller scale, right? So you don't have to jump in and have the idea that you're going to make a $10 million business within the next couple of years. You could start off small, start getting into the space, making connections, building up a reputation in that space. And that goes a long way. So one of the things that I think Victor has talked about before, and I don't think you've talked about today, but like, for example, if you are going to do a GoFundMe, GoFundMe campaign or something like that, Kickstarter campaign. I mean, you really need to already have kind of that proof that you're an expert in the field. You already have to have built up that network of people who are interested in what you're building, so that when you actually go and launch that Kickstarter campaign, you're going to get money. If you haven't already put that work in, you could put up 1,000 Kickstarter campaigns and you will probably not get much of anything. And the same principle goes for everything else as well. Whether you're trying to raise money from investors or you're trying to find business partners or whatever the case may be, if you haven't put in that legwork early on, then it's not going to work out. You can't just build it and they will come.
One thing to add too, actually, we're lucky to have one of our mentors on this call, and she chimed in saying, her name is Ritu. You can also propose advisory board or mentors that can be leveraged. That's very true. If you have a board or mentors that have experience in the space, that could be something that you talk about and fill that gap.
Wonderful. Alina, was that satisfactory for your question? First question?
Yeah, I guess it brings me to a follow-up question for that one is if you do have experience in like managing and operating a small business, does that experience like transfer to, I guess, different types of businesses or industries? When from an investor point of view, when like weighing or the confidence of their investment to that particular person?
I think that's a JJ question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, JJ, but you'd be a great person to answer that.
Well, you know I'm busy, okay? But so first of all, get real, say who you really are. And if you're have a younger profile, that'll first of all be obvious. And don't pretend, don't BS, you know. I know that as investors, Travis and I respond to honesty, integrity. That's a huge factor in deciding who to work with. And I think that the other thing is when you look at your potential investors, you got to think about who they are. And typically, they're going to be middle age or older. They're going to be very successful business people. And they have some money and they don't want to be stupid with it. They want they want to get a good return. And think of how you position to that investor and what you might say to them. And I think the comment about having advisors or a board is like super relevant. Titan Angels invested in a med tech company with a utterly brilliant non-degreed practicing computer scientist. And I want to say he was 21, 22, and had a stunning idea. And he was the CEO of the company with no business management experience. But on his board were some very savvy, experienced people who brought great credibility. And honestly, the board made the difference. So we did go forward and invest with reservations about the startup CEO, not the brilliance of the idea, but it was literally who was on the team that made a difference.
Yeah, if I can just add on to that, so when you do work with a mentor or say, for example, our Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator, effectively we're like your board of advisors. And we could, what I really enjoy is helping people save money and get to market faster, because you avoid those pitfalls, those mistakes that a first-time entrepreneur might make. And so by doing that, by working with us, we can definitely help you in that avenue.
And we had a Tech Coast angel come and speak to us. This was a number of years ago. And he said to the 15 or so people in the room that the very fact that these people were at the incubator gave them increased valuation and fundability. So it says that it's the awareness that you don't know everything, that you can use some help, and that you affiliate, in this example, with an incubator. It made him as an investor more interested and increased the perceptible valuation of the company, believe it or not. Jack Tai, who said that.
Regarding question 2, how to go about looking for investors in specific industries that some business professionals might deem risky or taboo, such as cannabis industry. I think I'm going to ask either JJ or Travis to chime in on that one. How would someone go about looking for investors in specific industries?
Travis, I'll start, and I can tell you that some investors specialize, all right? And so one of the best predictors of future behavior may be past behavior. So many investment firms will publish the companies that they invested in. So they'll leave tracks that'll indicate their risk preference, maybe a bias towards certain industries. And so if you're looking, you're a food company, well, I guess you want to find people who've invested in food businesses before, right? So that really is findable. And then you don't waste your time or their time in pursuit of an investor that's not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
Is that findable?
Sorry, what did you say, Phillip?
Sorry, just curious question. JJ, are you thinking, would that be like on Crunchbase, or is that public information?
Sometimes
somewhere?
it's just websites. So for instance, if you go to the Titan Angels website, we post the companies that we've invested in.
Okay.
And then Crunchbase, missing from Crunchbase is a lot of the early stage seed stuff. But when you look at, let's say, a Series A type round, you'll see a tremendous amount of information about the investors there. So, which could be helpful, yes.
Yeah, there's also angel list that you could look at. I mean, just a simple Google search, look on LinkedIn to find them. The other thing that is worth looking into would be organizations that are specifically about your industry. So whether it's cannabis or whatever, join the organization. Start going to their meetings. Start meeting people. A lot of this is networking. So yeah, that's another way to find out. You could also find some of the startups in that space that have raised money and reach out to them. Ask them who are your investors, and maybe you could get a good lead that way as well.
Helena, did that answer your question? Those questions?
Yeah, it actually did. That was really helpful. I'll look into that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, we have another question in the chat. And by the way, if any of you feel like raising your hand and or taking yourself off mute and asking your question, that's totally fine. From Vanessa, my question is specifically for Victor. Victor, how did you know where to get your products for your food business?
Vanessa, I might need you to jump on to kind of clarify some of it, but based on the question, my assumption is you're thinking either ingredients to make the product or product idea, like what product to launch. If it is ingredients, my answer is in the very beginning of our cookie business, we lost money on every order because we went to Vons and we went to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and we bought all our ingredients retail. But our goal wasn't profitability yet. It was, do we have something that people like? And does it solve the problem? Is it delicious? Once we said we found out yes, then we started investigating wholesalers, suppliers, going to Restaurant Depot, right? Finding ways to actually make it profitable later. Product market fit is first, and then figure the other stuff out after. Is that kind of what you were leaning to, Vanessa?
Yes, it was. It was mostly like, did you pretty much off the bat find the consumers you wanted to purchase from? Or like you said, it was a lot of investigating kind of what works best for you.
Yeah, for sure. So, and it depends on the type of food product, but again, we were making cookies. So it was all right. Well, we need almond flour, we need sugar-free chocolate chips, we need this, we need that. And we would just buy retail to make the product. And once we found out again that there were people buying, we got like 30 something orders in a couple of days, which was in a couple hours, which showed us there was interest. Then we started looking for, you can just look for suppliers. As an example, you can a Google search of low sugar chocolate suppliers or almond flour distributors and kind of work backwards from that. So if you already know that people like your stuff, the finding out how to get the product cheaper, the supplies cheaper, is kind of the easier part of the equation to solve. Does
Okay,
that
thank
help?
you.
If there's anything else, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great. Our next question from Raul. And Raul asks, when starting a service-based company, such as becoming a photographer, at what point does it become important to create the paperwork to become a legitimate business? And so I want to kind of, so first off, I need to give my disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. So a lawyer would have a totally different response. And by the way, that would be a business attorney. So I just want to point that out, Raul. So you could actually ask several business attorneys. But my thought is, or the way I would start this is saying, why do you need to be a business or have that type of entity? A business is a legal shield. So in case you get sued, and I can only imagine, maybe you do maybe you're a wedding photographer and something just goes horribly wrong and you get sued. The entity gets sued and it protects you from your personal assets. So usually that's what having a business is for, the legal shield. And then there are some other tax incentives, like becoming like a S corp, or if you're raising money, you want to be like a C corporation so you can take investors. But like, you can have other write-offs with other business structures. But believe it or not, you just by doing business by yourself, you're considered a sole proprietor. And if you were to do business with someone else without a legal contract, you're actually a general partnership. So these are things that are kind of starting as you're just working and you're not doing any official paperwork. But then the next official paperwork would be like a LLC or an S corporation, and you're getting it now. You're publishing yourself in newspapers about, you know, this entity or this fictitious business name is now in operation. So that's my first take on it. Did that kind of answer some of those questions? You can take yourself off mute and chime in.
Yeah, I guess my question was also a little bit of like, I mean, obviously you do, you know, let's say you do one wedding, that doesn't necessarily make you like a wedding photographer in the business sense. So at what point in like that area should it become important? But like you said, that might be, you're right down to more of a business attorney type of question just because of taxes and stuff.
Yeah. Any of the other mentors or
I think it's when you engage for cash, for money, and you have some liability risk is when you should consider a legal entity. And you know, you'd say, well, it's a service business, it's photography. What would be the big deal, you know? And maybe that is a low likelihood of litigation of any type of legal action. But if you're creating a product, as an example, that a child could choke on, as that the liability could be extraordinary. And so with a proven business concept and you're in go-to-market, yes, you do want a legal entity, and yes, you do want insurance, because we live in a very litigious society. Now, with that said, there are many businesses where liability is quite low, and there's no need for an LLC, an S corp, a general partnership. A sole proprietorship can be just fine. And so you're a consultant, you're providing people advice, and you might be doing training. So you might be able to function as a sole proprietor indefinitely. But any job, any work that ends up putting your customers somehow in a position of risk where they could take legal action, yeah, I'd hop on LegalZoom and pop for an LLC. When you engage with a business attorney, they're going to probably charge a fee of around $1,000 or more for the setup of that legal entity. And from their standpoint, it's almost a gift because of the time they'll put into it. This is a thorny issue, and all of us have encountered it who've started businesses. And so a little bit of caution goes a long way.
I think, JJ, also, I'd like to add, I think we're looking at it from a legality perspective, set up the tax write-offs. But I think being a legitimate business and established corporation, if you're registered with California and the state, it also helps with your branding and marketing as well, right? So people, when they're looking at, and based on the size of your contracts, based on the range of the revenue, you know, if they're small contracts versus bigger contracts, if you're doing weddings and major events, for example, Raul, it might be worthwhile. It doesn't cost that much in terms of setting up a company. It gives you the write-offs, but it also gives you that legitimacy, right? Like, so it's worth looking into.
Thank you, Ritu.
Sure.
Okay, we have another question from Helena. As someone with an entrepreneurial spirit, I have many ideas for businesses. How do you go about deciding which one to move forward with? That's a good question. Is it possible to pursue multiple ventures or worth focusing on different ventures? So I'm going to say, first off, you know, we're an educational university. Whether you're actually a student here or you decide to join our incubator, what I like to believe is everyone's going to walk away with an education. Everyone's going to learn how to start a business. And now, believe it or not, this is in a way transferable to many other businesses that you do. And if you look at the lean startup process, it's about understanding who your customers are, going about that in the right way, understanding that you need to kind of validate your idea before actually kind of scaling up. And so if you understand those concepts and we walk you through that process in the incubator, you can take that to anywhere. Now, deciding on which one to do, I think that's a good one because I mean myself, I usually rate those ideas. I usually go and I look at to see kind of like the market and how big the market is. How many competitors are in there. There's a lot of other factors involved, such as looking at what's going on politically, economically, what are the social trends. Is this a good business to pursue at this moment? Or is it something to pursue later? Anyway, that's my take on it. So if any of the other advisors would like to jump in, please feel free to do so.
I have some thoughts. As someone who's run into this issue quite a bit. I think a couple of ways to look at it, right? There is one is which one are you most excited about would be one thing to consider, not the only thing, but also of your ideas, where is your sphere of influence the greatest? Where do you have the most strength? Like, do you have a certain talent or skill or access to a network that can help your chances of being more successful? That's something to consider. The other end is what Philip talked about. What are the macro trends? Is this a growing industry? Is there a gap in the market that you can fill? So those are a couple of things to consider. The other end is there's one of my favorite stories. It's about a donkey. So there's a donkey that was hungry and thirsty. On one side of a room, there's hay. On the other side, there's water. The donkey's like, I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. The donkey dies, both of hunger and thirst. The moral of the story is the donkey could have gotten hay and then gotten water. Especially because you're young, Helena, you can pick an idea and then do another idea later, and then do another idea later.
All right, Helena, did that answer your question? Because I do think that a lot of entrepreneurs do have this problem, by the way. We love ideas and we're very excited about them. And I know it seems like whenever I got one idea and I'm working on it, another one comes to my mind and
Yeah, that's
it could
my problem
I,
experience.
Yeah. I think it
I
also
do
takes a
go.
lot, right? Sorry, Philip. I think it
Yeah.
also takes a lot. So if you are a little bit this, a little bit that, you're not 100% one thing, right? And when you're starting off and it's a new business, it's you yourself by yourself. So there's a lot of time commitment. Sometimes you need to step away. So you need to give yourself that room to have sort of a focused approach, if that makes sense. So like Victor said, pick what excites you most, pick where you think you can make more of an impact. Try it and give yourself time, give yourself a year, try it out. If that doesn't work, then move to the next one, but don't spread yourself too thin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
My counter advice to that would be to try to burn yourself out. Try to do too much. Seriously. I mean, you're, early 20s probably, whatever the case may be. You really don't know what your limits are. So just try to do as much as you can. And once something starts taking off, maybe put some more time into that and less time into some other stuff. If I recall correctly, you were the one who asked the cannabis question. So don't do too much of that because that might, slow you down a little bit. But yeah, just try to burn yourself out, actually.
Got it.
Also, for sure.
Usually people, if you take Travis's advice, which a lot of people do, not just Travis's advice, but a lot of people would try to do multiple things at once. And, but you'll usually find them start to narrow down. And, in the end result, you do have to be careful, because if let's say you have two things that are taken off and they're both really requiring your time, you're only splitting your time now half effectively, right? Maybe you're actually a different, but you're not giving 100% is what I really want to illustrate. So that's something to really think about there. And if you're not giving 100% and you have competitors, they're going to beat you. Okay. Let's see. Bailey has a question. Actually, let's see. If I want to launch product in March of 2026 and I want to join Fullerton's entrepreneurial program, when should I get started with you guys? Okay. Bailey, are you interested in being a student or joining our incubator?
Sorry,
Oh,
my
sorry.
voice is
I know.
really.
I know.
Oh, okay,
just-
I'm so
I
sorry.
just remembered that. I'll go ahead and answer it in two different ways. So if you're
Okay.
looking to be a student, then there are, it goes by the semester system. But if you're looking to join our incubator, it's actually anytime. So anytime you're interested in joining, you would notify myself, Travis, Victor, JJ. We would be the ones to kind of step through that process with you. And just so you have a little bit of an understanding, what we do is we understand what you're trying to do. And then we, from that information, then we find a mentor that's going to be in your area, or maybe a mentor that would be compatible with you, and then we pair you up as as that team. And then we come in as staff to also assist you, again, through the kickoff meeting, monthly meetings, just help you in all different ways. We also bring in auxiliary mentors like business attorneys and intellectual property attorneys and other people that can help you in that phase. So if you're looking to get started with our incubator, you can direct message me here in the chat. You can also put my email in the chat as well. Okay. Yeah. You want to say anything more? I got that part about your voice. Okay. Rebecca has a question for Victor. Victor, to create the initial traction, how much R&D did you have to do? How long did this process take?
The answer is usually always it depends. When we were making cookies, the R&D process was like 1 or 2 weeks during the summer, right? We took an ideal, like what is the best recipe for a chocolate chip cookie, and we reverse engineered it. We swapped out all the junk with clean stuff. We started tasting it. We liked it. Eventually, we did. It's called an MVP. Basically, created a one-page website that said the world's first keto cookie. We spent 25 bucks on an ad to Reddit, and a couple hours later we had a bunch of orders. So there was interest. We sent out samples and people liked it. That's one form of R&D. Eventually, when we grew so much that we needed to move to an actual co-packer where they could make a month worth of cookies in a day, that required a food scientist, because you have to think about shelf stability. You have to think about water activity. If there's too much water in a recipe, it can cause mold, things like that. The new brand that I'm working on, Santana Snacks, our R&D process has taken over a year. Why is that? Well, all our products are organic. So we've been testing seasonings, right? Salsa verde, chile limon, classic sea salt. How do you create the flavor you want? And then how do you turn all of that organic? Finding a contract manufacturer. Chips, like those chips I can't make at home. I need to get a professional company that has machinery to do that. So it depends on what you're trying to launch. Hopefully it's something, at least for your first food business, that's something that's a little easier to manufacture. But basically, you want to create what's a minimum viable product. What is the simplest version of what you're trying to create? And how can you get people to test it and tell you if they like it so that you can refine based on that?
Thank you. That really cleared it up.
Yeah, sweet. Glad I could help.
Great. All right. Vanessa has a question. what are great tips to market your business? I know nowadays social media is a huge way, but apart from that, what are other great ways? Well, I would definitely say social media, but word of mouth. Believe it or not, a lot of businesses start by word of mouth, and some of them actually have continued by word of mouth. And you would be surprised that there are many people in business who don't even have a website. And you talk to some of these entrepreneurs, and they just say, "I don't have time. It's word of mouth, and things have been busy." So, letting your friends know, letting your family know. But for sure, social media. Anyway, why don't I open that to the other mentors? Why don't you, or mentors and advisors, please chime in and see if there's
I
anything
would
else.
say determine where your customer hangs out. Okay. And they're going to have their preferences about how you message them, the channels they buy. And the joke I tell, if your target customer is a little old lady, okay, well, where do little old ladies hang out? Well, they go to bingo night at the church, okay? And so you need to go to bingo night at the church and learn the needs of those people, their preferences. And so that will help you determine the websites you might partner with, the social platforms you would use, or the physical location of your product. So, because where does that older woman who plays bingo, who hangs out at the church, what does she read? Where does she go? And that can help you direct your marketing portfolio.
Okay. Let's see. I think that covers it for the chat. I don't think I see another one in there, but if you have some other questions, you can input it or raise your hand or take yourself off mute. We do have about 7 more minutes that we can field questions. Yes. I hope I'm saying your name right. Yan Mei, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, May is perfectly fine. Yeah, I'm trying to having a business of teaching Chinese to I'm living here for 20 years almost. And can you guys give me some good advice to take my business to next level? Right now I have like 8 students only, and I wanted to make it into a bigger thing. Yeah.
You're teaching Chinese to
I teach
what type
Chinese
of
to student take IB, AP, or I also recently I added some younger children like a 3 to 10-year-old. Right. It's a little bit noisy. I'm on the street, on the campus, on the street. Yeah.
Okay.
And is your instruction face-to-face? Is it on Zoom? Is it
I
recorded?
have both. I have in person, and I also have online as well.
And so I think that scaling it, favors a digital teaching method for sure. I could understand why face-to-face instruction would be really powerful. I mean, this is simplistic. I know there are many permutations to your business. Others might want to chime in on this, but clearly, when you're, it's like in my job, whether I'm working with you, one-on-one, a class of 30, or I'm at a conference with 1,000. Some of the mechanics are the same, right? So to scale is going to require just kind of a bigger venue, some way to do that.
And I also run into run into some family member or friends say, "Oh, with this new ChatGPT, people not gonna need to learn Chinese, and they can just put on ChatGPT. They're gonna have the answer." And it's I can use it both way. I can turn ChatGPT to help me teaching, and it's also in a way on the way as well.
Yeah, so I think that those digital solutions of ChatGPT, they're good with hello, okay, and maybe with ordering dinner. But if you need to engage and get to know someone, I think those tools run out of gas. That would be my personal take. But.
So
So
right
may also, I would say, think outside the box a little bit, right? So for example, and I'm just going to throw this idea out there, people that travel to China, right? Maybe they want to pick up a little bit of the easy words and stuff. So maybe partner up with the travel agencies that handle, travel agents that are focused on China travel. Think about it like that. What JJ was saying is maybe you want to prepare little, like basic words, and you could do like a few minute video or something that somebody could take on their own. So I would say think outside the box to say what are the opportunities to branch out and see where that language comes in handy. Translations, right? So build those network and connections.
Yeah, well, that's my next question. When would it be a good point to, right now I'm doing myself. When is a good time to starting looking for helpers? When is it by the client's number or by the years of experience? Or when that's a good time?
Is your business where you are yourself overextended? Because I think you want to bring in helpers only when sort of, you've sort of spread yourself to where you're fully extended out. I think more than helpers, I would say, look at your channels to market. Like, what are the additional partners you can build up, or what are the relationships you can build as they get you more business? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
JJ, Victor, what do you guys think? Travis?
Agreed. It doesn't seem like the challenge right now is too much demand, right? Like fill the demand first. And yeah, so I agree.
Yeah,
And
the only thing I would add to that, I mean, it's basically once you start bringing on other people, it basically becomes a completely different business also. So right now you are marketing yourself, you are producing all the services and everything. But once you start bringing on other people, then there's other considerations that you have to take in, that you have to pay attention to. How do they teach Chinese to the students? Are they doing it right? Are they maintaining their schedule? All that other stuff. So that's something that you need to answer for yourself. Is that something that you would, be interested in overseeing? Now, if you're talking about helpers in terms of people to do the marketing for you or the bookkeeping for you or any of the other stuff, that's different. So which one is it? Are you talking about bringing on other teachers or back office help?
well, I'm thinking also about how to marketing. Right now, it's just word of mouth. I have a good student that they get good result on AP and IB tests, and then they recommend them to their sister, to the brother. It's really small right now. So where is a good place to market my idea?
Yeah, if you are okay doing the legwork, finding all the different teachers in your area at that high school level that teach that, and reaching out to them and just introducing yourself, building up a relationship with them and saying that, hey, if any of your students want extra tutoring or training, then you're an option. That would be one way to do it, because you know that those students, they're going to be taking those IB or AP tests pretty soon, actually just a couple months away. So that would be one thing I would do.
One more question. How much percentage of income should I spend on my marketing to be conservative?
Victor, what range? You don't have to give me the exact number, but what range of your businesses did you spend on marketing?
In the beginning, a lot.
Yeah.
If we're talking about a ratio, it's typically around 30%.
And Ritu, what about you?
So I would say to start off, Travis, there are opportunities like, for example, Eventbrite, right? Like they allow you to do, if you're not charging, if you're spreading the word, or, you know, you can use these platforms to socialize and broadcast. But I would agree with Victor that you really do need to plan more than anything else, your marketing dollars to get your, business to expand as well. But you can start off with some of the local initiatives, like if you were to reach out to the schools, the teachers, the travel agents, like, see where you can start off small and then build up as the revenue comes in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
You're welcome. Let's see, I think we have time for one more question, and I see Rebecca has a question, but before I address that, just wanted to point out, I see in the chat also, Travis, Victor, including myself, we put our LinkedIn information into the chat, so feel free to connect with us. You will need my email to connect with me, and I did put that in the chat as well, so you can copy and paste that. So when you connect. So Rebecca's question: as a student interested in Cal State Fullerton's incubator, should I wait to join the incubator for a semester, or can I, for a semester, I can focus on giving my all in creating a business? We actually accept people doing this on a part-time or moonlighting, if you will. Or so we've actually had a lot of people who are not students, but actually working professionals, and they actually join and they do this in the evening hours. They actually meet with us, and we have a very flexible schedule, so we can accommodate different times in the day to also meet with our with the people that are, we call them incubator residents with our clients. So with that said, I mean, the old adage is, if you invest more time into it, you might see faster results. You can move a lot faster. So I would, but you don't have to. I would say if you're interested in starting, the best time to start is now. Otherwise, you tend to get distracted by the things. And if you can afford the time and you can do it now, definitely do it now. I kind of wish I studied, or I wish I started businesses earlier when I had, when I could still stay at home and live with my parents. But, anyway, that's my take on it. Travis, Victor, anybody else want to chime in on that?
No, I think you're right.
JJ?
Yeah, always now.
All right, great.
Don't hesitate.
All right. Well, it has been a true pleasure, meeting with all of you this evening. And, so please get in touch with us, and let's have some follow-up discussions. And I hope this was very helpful and informative to all of you. So again, we just want to say thank you, and looking forward to your entrepreneurial success.